Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode we're going to be looking at calculating the areas of waste material, and I've got a little example to show you right here. Let's get started. Now, the first thing I'll tell all of my students when we're looking at this type of question is read the question twice. First of all, just read the question. It'll give us lots of useful information to help us answer it. Okay, so let's have a look. We have here a diagram, and we also have lots of bits of text up here, and of course we have the main question down here. Firstly, I'm going to have a look at this. All measurements in millimeters, or mm. Okay, that makes sense. Make a note of that, so I'm going to just underline that so I know that all the millimeters on here, all these measurements, are in millimeters. Secondly, I've got a little box here with an equal sign that says waste next to it. Okay, so that means that this bit here is waste and this bit here is waste. Makes sense so far? Okay, calculate the total area of the sheet of acrylic in centimetres squared. Now that's very important there because that's a different measurement or a different unit of measure to what I've already been told it's in. We know that it's in millimetres currently, so I've got to do something to that. Next, it says give your answer to within 2 decimal places. Okay, so that'll be something like this. Like that, 2 decimal places. I need to put that there so I remember that when I answer my question and I give my final answer, that's how I'm going to give it. It also gives me some information on how to answer this question, which is quite useful, and it will come up in your exam. It gives us a couple of formulae. Firstly, it says the area of a triangle is half times b times h. Well, hopefully maths teachers will have drilled this into you already, but if you haven't, we've got half, which will be written as 0.5, which is half of 1, 0.5 times base times height. It also gives us another formula, talks about area of circle, and that says pi times r squared. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, but in brackets here you'll notice it tells us what pi will be equal to. Now in your Design and Technology exam, for Excel certainly, you're allowed to use a calculator. So don't fret or worry that these are a lot of mathematical numbers I have to crunch in my head. You don't have to do that at all. You'll be allowed a calculator for this. However, with that said, a lot of us know how to use the scientific calculator, which has this pi symbol on it. Don't use the pi symbol in a DT exam. It's telling you in the exam that actually we're going to treat this as 3.142, not pi. Pi has a recurring number that's much bigger than that, and it will change your final answer. So keep pi as 3.142 or whatever your DT exam states it as. It should be 3.142. Okay, so we've gone through the question. We've got to calculate all of this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and work it out as centimetres squared. Right, so I'm going to get my question and I'm going to get this and shrink it out of the way because I'm going to use some of this space. So I'm going to shrink that down over here so I can still see it, and I'm going to get rid of my red sections for now. I'm going to need some areas to work on here, and you should have at least half a side of A4 to be able to calculate your areas here. Right, now first things first, this little guy down here, I need to convert millimetres into centimetres. Now some of my key mathematicians out there, you'll be able to do that, and you'll be trained to do that in your maths lessons at the end. Well, for some of us at DT, we find that more challenging, so my advice as a DT specialist is to do this now at the start. It'll convert things down a lot easier. So if I have something, for example, like 10 millimetres, and I want to convert that into centimetres, well, 10 millimetres, as we should know by now, is quite simply 1 centimetre. So all we have to do here is knock that 0 off, and then I get my 1. Now, I'm going to do that to everything, so I'm going to cross off the 0 here, 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 and here. Now I'm working with centimetres squared, or centimetres. So I don't have to worry about calculating or remembering to change it at the end, because I've done it now. I'm working in centimetres. Okay, so let's start breaking this down into simple chunks. Now typically in these style questions, I've noticed that they often give you a triangle, a circle and a rectangle. That makes things easier for us. Often though we've got to have to spot these. Now here I've got a measurement that doesn't really line up to anything, but if I add a line in here myself, I can create a rectangle. It also lines up pretty well with this as well, and that'll come in handy in a moment. Now, the first things first, work out your total area. So let's work out what the whole of this is going to be. And that, as your mathematicians keep telling you, your maths teachers will say, is base times height. So it is this bit measured by this bit. In this case, we end up with 21, no we don't, we end up with 40, I'm going to get it wrong myself then, 40, which is this one from here, by this one here, which is 20. So, crunch into the calculator 40 times 20, and that will give me 800 centimetres square. We've got to put that unit of measure in there, otherwise we're going to be losing marks. Okay, so now that I've got this, I'm going to leave that over there for now. And in fact, I'll try and do it so that I don't take away parts that I need. That'll be useful, won't it? So let's get that bit and put that over there, total area. And I'm going to highlight that in that space for now. Okay, now we've worked out the total area, that's great. Now we actually need to work out the waste area. So I'm going to keep things simple and I'm going to continue to work out this rectangle in this space here, which again will be base, this bit, times the height, which is this bit. So I'm going to put a little picture of a rectangle there because, well, I like to draw things and I'm a bit of a designer, and it'll help me remember when I'm going back to add all these together at the end. So a rectangle is base times height, which in this case will be 21 times 12. So I've got this one times by this one. So in the calculator I crunch 21 times 12 and I end up with 252 centimetres squared. Okay, I'll box that off for now. Okay, let's move on to something a little bit more complicated. Let's go on to the triangles. Now I've got my triangle over here and I've got a measurement there. I haven't got one over here though. I have got one there. So I can treat that as an equilateral triangle and say that it's got 5 centimetres as its base and 5 centimetres as its height. Now this tells us to do half times base times height. So I'm going to go 0.5 times 5, that bit, times 5, which is that bit, and crunch that into the calculator. 0.5 times 5 times 5 equals 12.5 centimetres squared. Just pump the brakes there though, because a lot of students will go, brilliant, got all the mark there. However, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles. So I'm going to have to times that by 4. So times by 4 gives me 50 centimetres squared, and I can put that in a triangle as well. Okay, now we're going to move on to our circle. And you might be looking at that and going, well, can't see a circle there. Well, we're going to have to join this piece and this piece together, and we're going to have to add those to make our circle. So those two semicircles will be joined. Now here we have a diameter, so from this end to this end, that's the diameter of our circle. So we can put DIA is 12. Now it tells us, if you can remember down here, that we're working with the radius. Now the radius of a circle, if we're not familiar, let's get a circle in here. The radius is the middle point to the outside. So essentially it's half the diameter. So I can just divide 12 by 2 and that'll give me 6. So that is my R. Now I can crunch that into a calculator if I wasn't sure, but I know what 12 divided by 2 is, so I can just move forward with that. And now we're going to do the pi part. So it states that we're going to use pi times r and then a little square underneath it. And pi is 3.142. That's what it tells me it's going to be there. And that's going to be times the radius, which we decided was 6, times the radius, which was 6. That's why I've got two of these little guys. So, crunch that into the numbers and be specific. Do it that way. 3.142 times 6 times 6. And that will give me this crazy number, 113.112 centimeters squared. That's the area of our circle. Now, I'll tell my students to circle their answers as they're going along, and we're going to add those together, and that will give us the total waste. So, we're going to have 252 plus 50 plus 113.112. So 252 plus 50 plus 113.112. That gives us the answer of 313.112 centimeters squared. Now that's brilliant. We've now calculated the total wasted material. That's all this area here, all this and this and this and this, all adds up to 313.112 centimeters squared. Brilliant, fantastic. Sometimes it'll ask you to take it away from the total area, which is why we've still got this guy down here. And it's a good habit to get into if you just automatically take it away if it asks you to. But make sure you read that question. It wants to know on our question the total waste area. So technically we're there already. However, I'm just going to move it one step further forward just in case the question asks you to take it away from the full material. So we would have 800, which is what we've got over here, and we're just going to minus it from our total area. So 800 take away 313.112, and that gives us this crazy number, which is 486.888 centimeters squared. Brill, we've got there. We've finally done it. It's taken us about 10 minutes to get there, but we're here. Now, trouble is that that is not how they wanted it to be given to us. So, they wanted it as 2 decimal places. They said it quite clearly over here. They want it to 2 decimal places. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to go 486.888 centimeters squared. I need to get rid of this one. And we know from maths that if it's higher than 5, a round up. So I'm going to get rid of that and turn that into a 9. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will give us our final answer. So I'm going to scrub that over there, out the way, and I'm going to give our final answer as 486.89 centimeters squared. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how we answer this question. Now, there is a lot of information there. It is quite a challenging question because there's so many different parts to it. Each individual part isn't too complex. However, if you can get into a model very easily with this, and as you can see by the scribbles that I've done over here, it's very, very messy. So try and organise yourselves in a way in which you can spot things easily. Now, I'm not part of the exam board, but if I was a betting man, I would say that we're going to be working with something that looks a little bit like this. I would suggest that we'd get a mark here for working out this rectangle. I'd say we'd get a mark there for the triangle. I'd say we'd be getting a mark for working out the circle. And I'd say we'd be getting a mark for our final answer as well. So it begs the question, if this is out of 5, which they usually are, our 5th mark must be coming from working out the total area. It could come from converting these down into centimetres, but equally you can get top marks for getting the total correct answer. However, I'd never advise doing that. Always show you're working out. Now, in today's session, we've looked at calculating the area of waste material. It's a complex part of the exam. It's one that you're going to need to practice. And don't you worry, I'll be here to support you along the way. I'll dish out extra versions of this as well, so we'll be doing different versions of how to work out this calculating of waste area. I hope you've been doing this along with me, and I hope you got the right answers too. Till next time, stay safe. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye now.